I was originally not going to make another video until the next episode of Bruce's Battles coming out tomorrow. But recently I read probably one of the worst posts I have ever seen. The post was concerning my shark hybrid, Bruce. And, well, honestly, it raises an interesting point. So, I'm going to spend this video just addressing some of the things that people have been saying about Bruce. So hopefully I won't get any more uneducated comments. Because people think they can seriously try to school me on hybrids, despite the fact that a majority of the hybrid war community are kids. And I'm a responsible adult. So yeah, I'm just going to be going over the different points I found in the post and the response that I got. So just bear with me here, because this might be a little bit of a rant. Blame the creator of Chuck. The first point was that Bruce only seems to fight hybrids on his own because they have dysfunctional weapons. Even though despite the fact that episode 1, Bruce went up against a hybrid that had no dysfunctional weapons and still won. So that Bruce can easily hold his own in a 1v1. Plus, there were many other hybrids that didn't have dysfunctional weapons that Bruce could easily win against. Things like Abara and even his doppelganger, the other Bruce. While some of the weapons were dysfunctional, the main weapons, the Jaws, weren't. So, it was pretty okay with that. Another point was that the whole thing is that Bruce isn't fighting in a fair battleground. They believe that the conditions of the battlefield should be more like set neutral, like those with the 2.0 and the Great Hybrid War. You can tell this video isn't scripted at all. But to that I say, but this was never a hybrid war. Bruce's battles was more akin to what Vex was doing, but without the Vex. See, this fight is taking place in different parts of the ocean. The hybrids designed have the chance to use the ocean or different parts of waters to their advantage. These fights were never specified to take place in a controlled environment. The only one that is an upcoming episode next year, which is a controlled environment, controlled by the opponent. So in this case, Bruce will be fighting out of his element. Then there are the multiple issues surrounding Bruce's pack. First of all, Bruce is able to control his pack, thanks to combination of the bottlenose dolphin and the sailfish. Also, the speed down here is 70 miles an hour. That has been retconned since episode 8. I just never crossed it out. Because the speed of 50 miles an hour is much more conservative for a creature of this size. Because, thanks to ever since episode... Yeah, this hybrid basically never went 70 miles an hour, and it can barely even get to 50. Like, it only really gets to 50 under the perfect circumstances. Most of the other time it's definitely slower than that, but still fast enough to outpace the majority of opponents it gets. Which are surprisingly all pretty big opponents, despite the fact that puts them in easy target range for the pack. Because I could just send in all 20 individuals, not 1,000, I don't know where that came from. There's only ever really been 20 individuals, one of those being Bruce, the Alpha. And in this case, because I could just send 20 of them to attack everything, but then again, that even is a stretch, even by my standards. So you can't call me out for not being considerate, because I could have just sent in all 20 members of the pack to take out every single large opponent, but I didn't. Then there are some of the unexplained issues, like the whole fight with Abara, which was determined by the creator to be inaccurate, so you can kind of ignore episode 8, due to a combination of not having the correct information at the time. And also, that fight, the creator decided to use the specific environment to their advantage. That's what this was all about. This was being similar to Vex. Bruce basically taking Vex's spot as the hybrid that everyone wanted a piece of. And the use of the cyanobacterias there was a very smart use, because probably the only one to ever happen, but due to the Abara there being used to outdate was inaccurate at the time, the fight doesn't really count. Also, if this was supposed to be a controlled environment with no advantages, then yeah, Abara would not stand a chance. Then there's the issue of the fight with Venda, and that because apparently the creator of Chuck got mad because Chuck was unable to join the fight, despite the fact that if you're going to make an ally to Bruce, then you need to take into consideration that Bruce and the Sharkopaths fight in a variety of different environments. And if your creature can't handle different temperature changes or different depths, then it's not going to be able to help all the time. A creature like Chuck, while possibly having a decent amount of thermal regulation, thanks to the American alligator, other things like depth tolerance was not included, which means Chuck is really best a fighter in the shallows, which isn't the most useful when it comes to battles in the deep waters. So in that case, in deep water battles, the Sharkopaths will have to fight that one on their own. Then there's the whole talk about plot armor and me supposedly glazing my hybrid for being extremely tough, even though Bruce is pretty much the opposite of that, not being particularly well armored, and bites from the much larger animals could easily kill him in one hit. But then again, if that was the whole fight, where's the entertainment? You know, you have to give the folks a little sizzle. You know, I go through a bunch of different fight scenarios before I eventually find one that would be entertaining enough without having to repeat the same thing that I did over and over again. Because if I just said the hybrids met, the opponent got a bite on Bruce, killed it, and that was the end, then there's no entertainment. That would just be boring and no one would watch. And plus, considering we are making hybrids which aren't even really realistic in the slightest, I think it's safe to say that with the amount of realism and thought I put into my hybrid, and many others do, I think it's safe to say that we can expand our disbelief at least a little bit when it comes to the fights, to give a bit more spectacle. Also, I saw the live stream that Metriogenetics did on Bruce. He was confused about the shark's fins being from the sailfish. To be more specific, the fins honestly aren't the best reconstructed in this. This was a very early drawing of Bruce. I may go back and redo Bruce, like give him an updated look like I did with Harvey, but essentially, the fins have been changes are his front fins here, and his tail fin here, which would work much better at propulsion, being shaped similar to a sailfish, allowing the creature with these longer fins to move through the water much faster. So yeah, the 50-mile-an-hour speed I feel like is definitely possible, since it's a more conservative thing. I could have just said it went as fast as a sailfish, but that would really be inaccurate. I'm not exactly mad at all of these claims, but I will say this. If you're gonna try and critique Bruce, or whatever else you do, then how about stop hiding on other people's communities like cowards? If you've got something to say it to my face. I mean, because I can very easily take the things. I mean, I got bullied a lot in school, so, take it from me, I can handle these kinds of things. Okay, that's a lie, I really can't, but still. I'm sort of used to criticism because, I've been criticised for things like my whole life. So, yeah, this was more or less just a desperate, hastily covered up video, just trying to address as many issues that Bruce has been facing that I can find. Even though people don't seem to realise that, the more they keep talking about him, they're only making him more popular. Which was the goal, because Bruce has probably become even more popular than Harvey at this point. So yeah, the next episode of Bruce's Battles will be tomorrow. I was thinking of adding this into that video, but then again, I just have to get all this off my chest. So, see you tomorrow.